Christ is risen.
Indeed, he is risen.
When we start to study this holy teacher of spiritual life, one of their advices is that we should give thanks to God for everything. For everything. And we know that it is not difficult to give thanks to God if we see blessings in our life. But we find it very difficult in those moments when we go through pain, difficulty, crisis, when we suffer like probably similarly in body, like the blind man who was born blind. And we ask them, those teachers of spiritual life, how we are able to give thanks to God if there is so much pain in life. Why to give thanks to God for pain, for difficulty? And they are answering us our questions, and they give like several reasons why we should be thankful. And today this gospel helps us to understand deeper one of those reasons. We find it in Christ's answer to apostles that this happened with that man. May God's glory is revealed. May God's glory is revealed. And as story went, we understand what kind of glory was revealed. The man whose blood was born blind not only started to see with his own eyes, but he started to see even through eyes of his soul. He comes to knowledge of Christ. He bows to him and he believes. And this is the beginning of salvation. And this is so huge thing that it is worthy to give thanks for all those things which brought us to that state. Many of these teachers of spiritual life, they tell us that one of these reasons for our pains and difficulties and troubles, trials, one of these reasons is that those are sent by God as a good instructors who are showing us the way, who try to form us, who try to bring us to understanding truth. Instructors who lead us to fullness of faith and living according to God's will. And if we are thankful to God, well, we are attracting some kind of extra grace and we are able to understand. And we know this, our practical experience confirms that, how many times happened to us that, well, we went through some kind of difficulty, hard time of pain, and then after several years later, when we look back on this time, we say, it was good for me because it brought a lot of blessings to my life. How many times we can hear people to say, if I would not go through these difficulties, I will be totally different person and not a good one. This is our experience. And this is that spiritual law we should keep in mind. So we should not see that something is going without reason in our life. Everything has reason, and everything is in God's providence. And because of that, we should always give thanks for everything, even and especially, I would say, for those things which are hard, painful, difficult in our life, because they form us. They form us. They bring us closer to God. They are these tools which open our inner eyes for Christ. And if we are doing that, if we are thankful and have this understanding that everything is allowed by God for our good, for our salvation, and we give thanks for that, so then we avoid one huge mistake in our life. And this mistake is when we start to dictate God what is good for us. There is a story I heard in one lecture about a lady. Her husband was seriously sick. He was not religious, where he left church. But she loved him, so she started to pray for him because he was slowly dying. And then she asked her relatives and friends, and she asked them that, well, pray for him. May God heals him. And then she posted it on Facebook or others, well, probably on Facebook, other social media, that pray for my husband. He's dying. He's seriously sick. And she was trying to reach all kind of help, to save life of her husband. And one of these answers which came through this her request was that, the answer or advice was that to one monastery here in the United States, a monk from the Mount Athos is coming to visit, and he has this fame of very holy man, whose prayer is very powerful, that she should ask him for prayer too. So she traveled there, and actually she met with that holy monk, and she told him whole story, and then she finished with words, "Please pray for healing of my husband." And this monk, it was visible that he was somehow praying during all this time, and when she finished, after a moment of silence, he looked at her very strictly, and he told her, "How dare you to dictate God what is against his will?" And he left her. She was disturbed. She didn't expect this answer. So she returned back home and non-stop thinking about his words, what he said, and slowly, somehow she gave up in her heart, and she started to pray differently. She started to pray, "Oh Lord, I give you my husband to your will. Mary, your will is fulfilled in him." Her husband died shortly after that. But he died in the state when he reconciled with church, he returned back to church. He made good confession, and he received all sacraments which sanctified his soul. He was saved. If God would answer to her prayers and praise all those people who were praying for him and fulfill their wish, he would be healed physically. Maybe he would live a year, 2 or 3 more, even 20 years more. But he would not return back because it's difficult to live old ways. But this sickness, this pain, was good instructor for him and brought him to life which lasts forever. If we give thanks to God and we try to see God's hand in everything what is entering into our life, we will avoid for sure to dictate this temptation to dictate God what we see as the best for us or for others. If we give thanks to God for everything, there are painful situations, we will open ourselves and others for His will, which always wants the best for us. It's not easy to learn this. It's very difficult to thanks to God when we are in pain and difficulties. But we have to force ourselves to practice that. May we are able to see God's hand and God's providence in everything.